that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Boston to celebrate the 246th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Winston Churchill once said, "The American democracy is the worst form of government, except for all other forms that have been tried." Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lieutenant Colonel Pike, retired. I am an instructor at East Boston High School. It is the initiation of that democracy, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, that we celebrate here in Boston today, as we have for well over 243 years. Our celebration is dedicated to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. We'll begin today with our traditional flag ceremony, followed by Boston's Independence Day Parade. First stop on our parade route will be the Granary burying ground for a short ceremony and laying of wreaths at the graves of John Hancock, Peter Faneuil, Robert C. Payne, Samuel Adams, and Chris Adams. The parade will then continue to the old State House for the annual 4th of July reading of the Declaration of Independence. Upon completion of the reading, the parade will reform and proceed to Faneuil Hall. Faneuil Hall was donated to the City of Boston by Peter Faneuil, a wealthy American colonial merchant and philanthropist. It has hosted so many pre-revolutionary meetings and it has become known as America's cradle of liberty. It is only fitting to conclude today's program here, as we have every other 4th of July since 1783. Joining me here on the stage today is City Councilor Ed Flynn, City Council President, Mayor Michelle Wu, Ms. Amy Yandel, Director of Office of Tourism, Sports, and Entertainment, Commissioner of Veteran Services of the City of Boston, Robert Santiago. Joining us also are 2 sailors from the U.S. Submarine, Massachusetts, Captain Thomas Goodfellow, Captain Commanding and Ancient Honorable Artillery, First Lieutenant Major Michael Fish, Second Lieutenant Lieutenant John Mano, and Adjutant Command Sergeant Major Carlos Ramos Rivera, Brigadier General Milano, Chief of Staff, Ancient Honorable Artillery. The Ancient Honorable Artillery Company of Massachusetts holds the distinction of being the oldest chartered military organization in North America and the 3rd oldest chartered military organization in the world. And last but not least,
oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the rampart we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare almost bursting in air came through the night, and on land was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
thank you, Dana. Please remain up for the honor. It's my honor to introduce the 20-year retired Navy veteran, the City of Boston Veteran Service, to the flag. of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Santiago. It is now my distinct privilege to introduce the Mayor of the City of Boston, Michelle Wu, the 56th Mayor of Boston. Mayor Wu is the daughter of immigrant, Boston Public School mama, two boys, MBTA student, and fierce believer that we can solve our deepest challenges through building community. As Mayor Wu is working in coalition to deliver bold, systemic change and make Boston a city for everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Wu.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Boston. Welcome to the birthplace of American democracy on our nation's birthday. Thank you so much to Lieutenant Colonel Fife and Special Guest Kendall here with him today. Thank you to my colleagues at the City Council President Flynn, Commissioner Santiago, Captain Giacomo from the Boston Police, and all those who are here keeping us safe and protecting us every single day of the year. And Dana Whiteside, who moonlights as an incredible vocalist, but actually serves us in this building as a city staff and planner as well. We are so proud to represent the Boston that you see today. We're proud to be connected to a legacy that you see gathered for this special celebration as well, tracing all the way back hundreds of years with the ancient and honorable. Thank you to the Middlesex County Volunteers, the Billerica Regiment, Massachusetts 7th Regiment, the Wilmington Minutemen, the Submarine Massachusetts. We're so grateful for what you do to remind us of the legacy that we carry forward every single day. And thank you most of all to our active duty service members and veterans who've joined us here this morning. We are so grateful for your service. I'm grateful for you to allow us to celebrate this 4th of July. I'm so excited to be here celebrating this historic day with all of you. New to my job, a little over 7 months in now, and reminded every day of the baton that is passed down to each of us to carry forward in this special city what it means to be an American, to be truly for a country that represents freedom, democracy, and the opportunity for every single member of our community and society. I want to note that just a few days ago, we were interrupted in our celebrations by a hateful group that descended on Boston, a white nationalist, white supremacist group from outside our city who chose to try to co-opt this birthplace of democracy and the message that we send every day. We wholeheartedly and overwhelmingly reject your message of hate, your desecration of the American flag that you carry. It is this display that we hold up as the birthplace of America, that everyone has the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and we will fight every day to make sure that that mission for freedom for every single human being is complete. There are many, many events and holidays that I get to attend and celebrate as mayor, but few are as core to Boston's history, our character, and our ongoing legacy as Independence Day. For we are nothing if not fiercely free here in Boston. Today is a celebration of that freedom and a reminder of the work and sacrifice required to defend it, to deepen it. And so I want to say thank you again to all those joining us here today from across our city, our Commonwealth, across the country and the world. We are so grateful that you are choosing to join us in our celebration of courage, commitment to this country, and the pride that we hold dear in Boston. Happy 4th of July, everyone.
Harbour Band. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's flag ceremony. Captain Goodfellow, have the adjutant, Command Sergeant Major Ramos, form the parade. Adjutant, form the parade. Participating in today's parade are
Nice guy.
Pick a spot.
Signing of the Declaration of Independence. We're now at the Granary Burial Ground. Founded in 1660, the Granary is the third oldest burying ground in Boston proper. Named for 12,000 bushel grain storage building that was located next door where the present Park Street Church stands to my right. The burying ground was renamed the Granary in 1737. The graveyard has 2,345 markers, Some say as many as 8,000 people are buried here. Since funerals were expensive in colonial times, there would be one headstone per family, but each grave contains as many as 20 bodies. We're here today to honor 5 Boston Patriots. Alongside the far wall to the southwest, my right, your left, is the elaborately embellished marker of John Hancock's tomb. The signature John Hancock on the Declaration of Independence is the most flamboyant and easily recognizable of all. A decree had been delivered from England in the early 1776, offering a large reward for the capture of several leading figures. Hancock was one of them. On signing the Declaration, he commented, "The British ministry can read that name without spectacles. Let them double their reward." At the left rear of the cemetery along the back wall is the location where Peter Faneuil is buried. Peter Faneuil, 1700 to 1743, was a wealthy American colonial merchant and philanthropist who donated Faneuil Hall to Boston. The room above the market stall became a civic center where so many pre-revolutionary meetings were held that Faneuil Hall became known as America's Cradle of Liberty. It is only fitting that we have historically concluded the program there as we have every other 4th of July since 1783. On the right-hand wall opposite John Hancock's tomb is a plaque marking the tomb of Robert Treat Paine. Robert Treat Paine was a native of Massachusetts. Born in 1731, he was elected to the Provincial Assembly, and that body selected him to attend the First Continental Congress. Paine served on the committees which formed the rules of debate and later served as chairman of the committee charged with acquiring gunpowder for the Continental Army. He also authored the final appeal to the king, known as the Olive Branch Petition, in 1775. Paine was re-elected to represent Massachusetts at the Continental Congress of 1776. He participated in the debates leading to the resolution for independence, and his signature appears on the Declaration of Independence. In the front right corner is a family plot of Samuel Adams. It is interesting to note that Sam Adams had the Boston Massacre victims interned here on his family plot. He was appointed as a representative to the Continental Congress, where he was most noted for his oratory skills and as a passionate advocate for independence from Britain. In 1776, as a delegate to the Continental Congress, he signed the Declaration of Independence. Adams retired from the Congress in 1781, returned to Massachusetts to become a leading member of the state and convention to form the Constitution. In 1789, he was appointed lieutenant governor of the state. In 1794, he was elected governor and was re-elected annually until 1797, when he retired for health reasons. He, Samuel Adams, along with John Hancock, Robert Treat Paine, brings the number of signers to the Declaration of Independence buried in Granary to 3. In the front right corner, buried near Sam Adams' tomb on the Adams family plot, is Chris Adams and 4 other victims of the Boston Massacre. Crispus Attucks, born in Framingham, Massachusetts in 1723. Crispus Attucks was an American stevedore of African and Native American descent, widely regarded as the first person killed in Boston Massacre, and thus the first American killed in the American Revolution. This event helped fuel the outrage against British rule and spurred on the American Revolution. Tension mounted rapidly, and when one of the soldiers was struck, the others fired their muskets, killing 3 of the Americans instantly and mortally wounding 2 others. Attuck was the first to fall, thus becoming one of the first men to lose his life in the cause of American independence. His body was carried to Faneuil Hall, where it laid in state until March 8th, when all 5 victims were buried in common graves. Attuck was the only victim of the Boston Massacre whose name was widely remembered. In 1888, the Crispus Attucks Monument was unveiled in Boston Common. Captain Goodfellow, Captain Commanding the 8th Honorable Artillery, Company, kindly have your Adjutant Command Sergeant Major Ramos Rivera called the parade to attention and present arms for the firing of the musket volley, followed by taps. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony at the graveside ceremony here at the Granary Burial Ground. The parade will now reform and proceed to the Old State House for the annual reading of the Declaration of Independence.
Is he in the middle?
rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Boston as we celebrate the 246th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. How appropriate it is that we are here today, just outside this building, on March 5th, 1770, 5 men were among the first casualties of the battle for independence, and what would later be known as the Boston Massacre. From 1771 through 1782, the patriotic declaration had been given from this very belt. On July 18, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was first proclaimed to the citizens of Boston from this very spot. As in revolutionary times, I ask our trumpeter to sound the assembly from the balcony. I'll call upon the City of Boston's Veterans Services Commissioner, Robert Santiago, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everybody, hands over heart, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Santiago. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of the City of Boston, Mayor Michelle Wu.
Happy Independence Day, America! Welcome to Boston, the birthplace of our country, on this day, our country's birthday. This is a city here in Boston where we take our responsibility very seriously to be a leading light for freedom, justice, and equality. And we pledge on this day every year, and every single day throughout the year, to be a leading light, pushing forward to recognize how all of us are deeply connected in the ongoing work to perfect our democracy and our freedom. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And now the Captain, Goodfellow, Captain Commanding of the Ancient of Artillery, will read the Declaration of Independence.
The Declaration of Independence was publicly read for the first time in Boston on July 18, 1776, from this balcony by Colonel Thomas Crafts, who was an elected member of the Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company of Massachusetts. Tradition holds that a member of the Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company of Massachusetts has read the Declaration of Independence nearly every July 4th since the end of the American Revolution. Action of Second Continental Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal safe station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw up such government and to provide new guides for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most unwholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies in places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the repository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the right of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions from within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage the migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for their tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. He is affected to render military independent and superior to civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction of foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, given his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of a trial by jury, for transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures, declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He is constraining our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages whom no rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind. Enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right to. And for the support of this declaration, with the firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually swear our fortunes and our sacred honor.
Far across the sea, let us all pledge allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we lift our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
At this time, the Zaba Military Band, under the direction of Mr. Frank Zaba, will play Stars and Stripes Forever. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's Old State House ceremony. The parade will now reform and proceed to the Faneuil Hall. Faneuil Hall was donated to Boston by Peter Faneuil, a wealthy American colonial merchant and philanthropist. It had hosted so many pre-revolutionary meetings that it has become known